So, you want to be a contractor. Ever wonder what it takes to become a contractor? The journey they go on to get where they are now, or the crazy things they see and hear on the job site? Well, you're in the right spot. Welcome to So You Want to Be a Contractor, the podcast. Join your host, Mike Fisher, as he talks to owners of construction companies from all over about how they got started, how they run their business, and some of the craziest stories they've experienced on their job sites. And now, your host, Mike Fisher.
Welcome to So You Want to Be a Contractor. This is episode number 6 today. My guest is Jesse Anderson, President, CEO. I didn't clear that up with you. I apologize. I should have.
You're right on.
Right on. Perfect. Good. I think I got all the details correct from LinkedIn. But advanced conservation management. You guys are doing some water conservation stuff, right? Which I assume is pretty dire here in California, Southern California, especially right now. So.
Absolutely.
Give us a little bit of your history, your background, how you got into this, and what brought you to where you are now.
So I started in the industry in 2004 on the manufacturing side of the business. I actually got a football scholarship to go to this small school in Oskaloosa, Iowa called William Penn University.
You know, what's funny is I think I actually I know about them. I think when I was playing football in high school, I think they were around, and I was about at that level as well.
Yeah. It was kind of one of those, fork in the road moments for me. I decided to take a gamble and go to Southeast Iowa. Learned real quick what it's like to play in snow.
What position did you play?
Wide receiver.
Okay.
Yeah. So
cold hands.
Yeah. It's like put me in 80 degrees. I'll score 2 touchdowns. You give me a negative 18 and I'm non-existent.
Right.
And this is before the days of Under Armour and stuff. So I always joke like I was literally out there in my grandmother's turtleneck, catching passes.
That's awesome.
But I had a job. I got a job as a bartender there in town. And my plan was to network within the town and just kind of see where I could take my next level. And I had a degree in business management, and I ended up meeting my future boss. I worked for a company called Cloud Valve Company in the bar. And 6 months later of training, they sent me back to Southern California. So that was unique in the sense that they have a sales trainee program. And a lot of the guys don't normally go back to where they're from. So they sent me back to California. I was the Southern California and Hawaiian sales rep for 15 years.
Oh man, going to Hawaii, that's gotta suck, huh?
Yeah.
Business trips to Hawaii?
Quarterly. That's Hawaii is one of those places too where it's extremely difficult to work, right? As you might guess. But nevertheless, kind of came to a point where I felt like I wasn't really progressing in my career. I looked at a couple different avenues that didn't really work out. And in 2019, I had an opportunity to start my own business. And so in October of 2019, I decided that I was going to start a water conservation business here in Southern California.
So going back to your boss that you met in the bar while working there, what kind of industry was that? What were you guys selling? I know you said you were a sales rep, but what kind of products are you guys working with?
So Cloud Valve Company manufactures resilient wedge gate valves and fire hydrants.
Okay.
So for me, I had no idea you could sell a fire hydrant. Matter of fact, I didn't even recognize fire hydrants until I got the job, and then I started seeing them everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was the construction side, manufacturing side. There's Cloud Valve, there's Mueller Company, there's American Flow Control. Those are kind of the biggest ones there. But yeah, I got a job selling fire hydrants and gate valves, and that put me on the construction sites.
Yeah.
And that got me involved in the construction or waterworks industry.
So what gave you the impetus? Because this is what always fascinates me, and I love hearing these types of stories. And I guess the industry and the vessel is irrelevant, really. It's just more about the mindset. But you go from that regional sales position where you're out there selling these products and whatever, and then what was the impetus or that precipice that pushed you over the edge to starting your own company, and what drove you to that decision?
Well, I started to chase the money, and I took a position with a company that paid me well, but I learned real quickly more money, more problems, and I ended up getting fired.
Yeah.
So I grew the business 2.2 million bucks. Kind of ran into you know, just some personality conflicts. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
And I felt disrespected. I felt like used for my contacts, and but also I gained a lot of confidence there. Because really I was relying on my client base. And can I transition from selling fire hydrants to fittings and restraints, which was the company I went to work for. I went from a domestic manufacturer to a import manufacturer. Um, and one thing that kept coming up for me was that sense of pride. I really didn't have a lot of pride selling hydrants and gate valves. Now, I know there's a lot of people that do, but for me, there wasn't anything that was progressing in the industry there. It was old stuff. The company's been around since 1858.
Oh, jeez.
Their principles and their culture and their attitude was almost as old. So I wanted more. They wanted me to just chill and enjoy that lifestyle, and I said that wasn't what I wanted. Um, so I decided to see if I could rep my own products and if I could start my own business. And so what I did is I researched the California Water Resource Board to look at these mandates that are coming down the pipe. Senate
No
Bill
pun
5.
intended.
Yeah. California has a number of water quantification mandates, stormwater, water treatment, water conservation, water filtration. So there was a lot of opportunities there. And so if I could find companies that sold products aligned with these mandates, then I felt like I had something.
So
And
so yeah, so if I understand it correctly, and obviously a bit outside the scope of the typical trade contractor that I speak to on an everyday basis, but I think it's awesome, and love learning. But you've basically taken all these different manufacturers that manufacture these products, kind of package together a solution based on all these California mandates, and that's kind of what you guys are selling and packaging and putting out there right now.
that's correct.
That's awesome. So what was that startup process like? I mean, obviously there's probably some growing pains and some learning opportunities there. Any major hiccups or anything that kind of along the way that helped you out, or any mentors in that process, or were you all on your own?
No, I had some mentors. I actually, I'm a networking guy to where I have 5 or 6 guys that I trust that are going to give me some honesty. There's a couple people in the industry that I really relied on. I'm the type of person too that I have just as many connections with other manufacturers as I do with distributors or contractors or end users, municipalities. And they all told me to take my swing. I'm 41 years old. I've given 17 years of my life to this industry. Um, I kind of felt like if I didn't do it now, then I'll never do it. And so hiccups, yeah, I'm still dealing with hiccups. Um, challenges, there's challenges every day. I mean, it's almost like everything that happens starts out as a challenge, and it's up to me or the team to figure out a solution. And I think that's the most gratifying part about it. Because when I
Yeah,
worked on
being
this,
the head of that ship and being the final say in all those decisions, right? I mean, good, bad, or indifferent, it's nice that you're kind of in control of that on your own, or with the team that you're running, right?
yeah, and like I played football, right? So there's 11 players on one side of the ball, and we all have to do our job in order for the play to work correctly, right? And so I understand that. And if I am the quarterback, that's my job. Or if I'm the running back, that's my job. Or if I'm the receiver, like everybody has to know their role. And I think it's just been really gratifying because you work for a corporation. They don't promote that. And from the outside looking in, it's almost the opposite effect.
Right.
They try to keep you down.
Yeah.
So I've never been the guy that needs the credit or wants the credit. I just want the solution. I want to get it done. So credit never really mattered to me. I really quickly saw how important it was to other people. But you got to know your people. Some people like that. Some people don't. Some people want to, have different talents. So
that's part of that growing pains of running your own company and being responsible for employees, right? Learn how to manage them and that whole process as well. What does your team look like now? What kind of team do you have underneath you, and what are their roles, and what is your role kind of developed into?
So right now for ACM, I'm the only employee.
Okay.
And I'm strictly focused on sales and bringing in new manufacturing companies. So right now I work with 6 manufacturers that fit under the umbrella of either conservation, innovation, or any type of solution that we have here for water conservation here in Southern California.
So what is the process like as far as staying on top of all those different mandates and laws and are there networks that you're in touch with, or is it just simply kind of just keeping up on the legislation, or where does that fall?
Yeah, so that's kind of my responsibility, being the rep here in California, is to keep a lot of these guys informed on what's going on. A majority of the companies aren't in California. They're looking to get into California. So I follow my California State Water Resource Board. They have separate sections. San Diego is Section 9. I attend those meetings. I got involved. I'm involved in my Chamber of Commerce. I'm involved in American Water Works Association, California Rural Water, all the various associations. For me, information is really the key. I want people to come to me if they have a problem, if they have issues, or if they're wondering if I've heard about a new product, or I just want to stay in the loop. And I feel like,
well, ultimately that's if I understand it correctly, that's probably your only sales position, right? Because in theory, you're dealing with most municipalities and government agencies that could probably do a lot of these things on their own, right? They could do this research and find out what kind of hydrants or gates or any of those kind of things that they need to install when they're doing that kind of work. But ultimately, they're coming to you because you have all the information and you have the resources to get them what they need and be in compliance. Is that kind of how I'm understanding it?
Absolutely. So
that's I mean, information is your number one sales tool.
Yeah, that's the value right there. And for several years, I've done contact hour training. So the state offers contact hour training or continual education units for distribution systems, so guys can earn contact hours and grow in their careers. So what I took is that portion of it, and I come in as a consultant, and we have a conversation about the mandates. Senate Bill 555 is a water quantification mandate. So by the year 2028, these municipalities have to know exactly how much water they're losing within their system.
Wow.
And in order to do that, they have to implement certain types of technologies. And so we just go through the motion with them. Where are they having issues? So I have a leak detection device that goes on a fire hydrant cap. Well, maybe we're having some issues with some hydrants in a certain area of the system. I sell a check valve that will shut down geysers, called Hydrant Guard, that will shut down geysers when fire hydrants get hit. I don't know if you've ever seen a hydrant gets hit at geysers, right?
Yep.
So that's a leading cause of non-revenue water. So what the state doesn't know is how many wet barrel fire hydrants are out there, or how many wet barrel fire hydrants get hit on an annual basis. And so I have to mediate between the cities to find out that information, because my biggest goal is to have a water conservation device mandated under every wet barrel fire hydrant in California. I know that's lofty as a goal or ambitious, but ultimately it's necessary.
Right.
So I have to take that information and relay that to the state. So I work really closely with the state to make sure that they're in the loop. And this is something I've been doing while I was being employed by other people, even up until this point. So it was just a continuation of what I was already doing. And now I have the opportunity to represent myself.
Yeah. Are there other, I guess, consultants that do what you do in your space, or do you have competition when going to these people and talking to them about some of the stuff you guys can offer?
Yeah, my competitors are now the gate valve manufacturers that are out there.
Trying to do it themselves and
Yeah. So so what I didn't know is that when I started going after these companies, that I would have a package that would rival my former competitors.
right.
So I sell gate valves and hydrants. I sell check valves. I sell leak detection. I sell filtration media. So it's just, as far as a direct competitor, there's none. But indirectly, I compete with multiple people on different products and in different spaces.
Yeah, so maybe kind of speak to that relationship a little bit, right? Because I would have to imagine if these manufacturers are able to sell directly to the people that you're trying to consult with, like how do you step in and manage that relationship as a middleman and kind of saying, hey, let me rep this product for you to these people? Is that how does that relationship work?
Well, the customers and clients are always going to be loyal to their representative. Maybe not necessarily a brand. There are some people that are loyal to brands. But for me, I live in Southern California. I'm from Southern California. So I know that I'm going to be here ultimately longer than my competitors. And if you want the right type of person to sell to the right type of people who knows where they are and knows who the decision makers are, then you should hire an experienced rep who's been doing it for, some longevity.
Yeah,
A lot of these guys will hire younger kids, college kids from the Midwest or for wherever, and they'll go out there and they'll hustle and they'll be road warriors. But it takes a long time to develop those relationships. And, friends buy from friends.
right.
So what gave me the confidence in that is essentially is now that, those guys that I started when I was 24 years old, and these guys that were in a trench, digging holes or putting together pipe or installing hydrants, we've all grown up in the business now. And now these guys are distribution supervisors and, engineering supervisors. So now we're all the same peers and we all started at the same time. And so now it's
Yeah,
like, it's even more solidified.
yeah, big network.
Yeah. So for
Yeah,
me, it was, I would go to my old accounts that were brand loyal and say, hey, listen, I understand you guys are loyal to this brand, but here's something that's a little bit different. Here's something that I've learned, let me share that with you and you guys can make your own decision. And
yeah,
I think what my credibility comes from being, unbiased in a sense, to where here's a package of how we can help save you some water, help you get in a better favor with the state. Not really concerned with which products you choose, more so concerned with that I get you to an area where you feel
yeah.
like
The
you're,
overall solution.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And
So do
so
you get
people,
any pushback from the manufacturers when you're stepping in and maybe either trying to rep their product or even a competitor's product? Do you get any pushback from manufacturers?
uh, not necessarily. I think these guys, they all feel like they know the best way to make money in the industry, right?
Right.
And each market is somewhat specific. So I try to add value and help them here in Southern California. It's a little bit different of a market in Southern California because there's so much independent distribution. So in other words, if I were to sell in Arizona, there would be, 3 distributors to sell to, 4 distributors to sell to, Ferguson, Corn, Maine, and a couple independents. But Ferguson and Corn, Maine have not been able to get a foothold in California because there's so many independents.
Right.
And these independents all know each other and they all low key work together.
Right.
And they make it really tough for manufacturers to come and leverage them.
Yeah.
So what I try to do is provide them a opportunity to get into that pipeline, that distribution pipeline. A lot of the manufacturers will say, we'll just sell direct.
Right.
Well, that's one way to do it. But, now you have to sell against your competitor and against your competitor's distribution. So when I got into the business, I had to sell the products twice. I had to sell the manufacturer into believing and trusting a distributor, and I had to sell the distributor into believing and trusting the manufacturer. And I was the one guy in the middle because a lot of these guys didn't want to do that. And so when I started, I said I wanted to make allies, not enemies. So I could have came out and said, here's my package. I'm selling direct. I don't care. It's, ACM or nothing. But I decided that strategically we needed to pick distribution partners in certain areas that were going to help us.
Yeah.
And we may have to give up a little, but ultimately we're going to get the volume that's necessary to succeed.
Yeah. Is your revenue strictly from a consultant standpoint, or do you, is there anything with the products as well?
Yeah, I get paid a couple different ways.
Yeah.
From a consulting standpoint, some districts will bring me on to do a couple months consulting on certain areas. I've worked with manufacturers who weren't quite ready, but didn't have product ready to sell, and kind
help
of
develop it.
the development. I get paid off commission on products.
So on that too, yeah. I mean, are you going back to kind of what you started with at the beginning there, as far as, or when you first answered that question, as far as, bringing you on for a couple of months, what does your process look like? Is it just kind of a one-time, hey, let's assess your situation, here's a solution, and move on? Or is it an ongoing kind of monitoring, changing things as things change?
I feel like it's a moving target.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a process of, research. When I research the product and I research where they're selling and I research who they're selling to, the pros and cons, who sold it. I just picked up a new product line 2 weeks ago. And so my process is I'm going to go get with that old rep. We had a rep retire the line and just kind of pick up where she left off. But in this industry, people are always changing, in the cities and the municipalities, they're always moving around. So my contact X, at City of San Diego, that might not be the contact next year. So you always got to follow up, and we always got to make sure we stay on top of people.
Yeah. Well, it's probably a little bit more fluid too, because you're in a situation where, there isn't a lot of history as far as, doing what you do in your business model, right? I mean, when somebody goes out there to, build a house or frame a wall like that, that's been around forever, right? But I feel like what you're doing, and especially with the mandates changing and the regulation and legislation changing, what you're doing is pretty unique. So it's kind of a, kind of fly by the seat of your pants business model, right? As far as, how you're interacting with your customers and how you're staying in touch with them, and kind of how you're working for them it's pretty fluid, I would have to imagine.
Yeah. So I think one thing that, working for the big companies is they taught me how to be successful, right? They gave us a blueprint of how to write a specification, right? So for instance, City of Anaheim, if I want to get a product into the engineering specification for City of Anaheim, well, there's a protocol that you have to follow in order to do that. And so I already knew that protocol. And so it was just, and I've already done that for other companies, and I did that very successfully. So it was just a matter of taking, because when I first started, the four manufacturers that I had were market entry manufacturers. They sold $0. And so it was, can I take something from zero and make it not zero? You
Right.
know?
Yeah.
And but I knew the process. So I'll take hydrant guard, for instance. Let's go to the engineering department at Anaheim. Let's get a test. Let's get some installs. Let's get some units sold. Let's get distribution set up. So now when Anaheim puts it in the spec, every time a fire hydrant goes in, they have to put in a hydrant guard. So that's the process. And that takes 6 months to 18 months.
Yeah,
I didn't know.
yeah.
I didn't know
Especially working
code.
with municipalities, right? I mean, that none of that stuff moves fast.
No. But once it's in, it's in.
Right.
Right. And so that's the residual rewards from that are what's attractive, not necessarily all the front end work that we go into. But once it's in, the city of Anaheim has 2 fire hydrants in their spec. So only 2 people are getting it. Right. So that's the goal, is to get our products specified. That way, when contractors and builders and developers go to build those tracks, they have to use the products that are on that approved material list.
Yeah. And I think you touched on it a little bit, but maybe kind of get into it a little bit deeper. But it sounds like you might have an opportunity to kind of work with the manufacturers, right? Not just the municipalities and as far as with the on the legislation side, but there might, as you kind of grow and as your network gets a little bit bigger, I would imagine that the distributors might be, and these manufacturers might be coming to you and saying, "Hey, Jesse, how do we get in? How do we do this? How do we become a solution for some of these municipalities?" Are you seeing that kind of happen?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that's, you touched on my mentor earlier, and I used to call him up and say, what do I do when distributors call me up and they say they want this and they want that? And his response was, don't call distributors, like, let them call you. People are going to start calling you. And it's more so like, do you know somebody at the city of Anaheim that can help me get this in? I said, yeah, I sure do. Let's talk about it,
Yeah.
So that's the value, is being able to know who, because there's a whole lot of people that think they know, but then they get out here and they really don't understand. There's 130 water districts in Southern California. That's from Bakersfield south, right? And there might as well be 130 different specifications that are written.
Right.
We got blue hydrants, we got green hydrants, we got stainless steel stems, we got bronze stems, we got all kinds of different variables, and everybody wants to be different. But if you know the person and you know the guy and you know how to get it done, then that saves time and energy and money and all that stuff.
Right.
So
Right.
That's the value, I believe, is
I was gonna say, you're kind of their gateway to a fast track into a big network, right? If they're playing their cards right and if they're smart.
I hope so. I mean, that's the pitch.
Yeah.
But it was interesting because, say, a company like Hydrant Guard, they're a good example, because we went from $0 in 2019 to close to $850,000 in sales.
Wow.
Right. And when I met with them, they really didn't understand the market as far as distribution was concerned, and as far as our product was only wet barrel specific. Now, wet barrel fire hydrants, are you familiar with the wet barrel fire hydrant, Mike?
I would assume that the water's into the fire hydrant, 100% like hot and ready to go. Is that kind of?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so nationally, there's dry barrels are sold. So wet barrels are specific to fair weather climates like California and Hawaii.
Right. We'd have to worry about freezing the expansion and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So when I got with Hydrant Guard, they were like, we're going to sell nationally. We're going to sell internationally. And so I said, well, wait a minute. We got to pump the brakes. We need to work on California first, Hawaii first, That's where wet barrels are at. Well, wet barrels aren't in Florida or Texas. No, those are all dry barrels. And that was experience that I gained just based on being at Cloud.
Right.
Right. So it was helping them steer the ship into the right direction. And then, you see the aha moment where they're like, oh my God, we didn't even know that. Right. And then, oh, well, how many, bolt hole patterns are we selling? Well, we're selling 6-hole. Well, there's 8-hole. There's 6-hole San Diego drill. There's 6x8-hole.
Which is
So there
just
was
crazy,
all,
right? Like you feel like it'd be pretty universal, but yeah, everybody's got to have their
no,
own way.
we would all wish that, right?
Right. It'd be too
But
easy that way.
so that's so year one, we had our 6-hole device, and year two, we implemented the 6x8 and the 8-hole device. So they went back to the drawing board and created a completely different device. And it says, okay, well, we need to get it tested. Oh, well, we'll test it. No. We have to get it independent third-party tested.
Right.
So it's just these little avenues that I'm aware of and that are intangible, really. Like I can't put a value on.
Right.
It's just listen, for me to sell, this is going to be the easiest way to do it. And let's knock out all these dominoes. Because at some point, if we go to the large district like Los Angeles Department of Water and Power, they're going to ask for independent testing. They're going to ask for, variables.
Yeah.
So it's been a really good, really gratifying ride from that perspective.
Yeah, it's cool to be able to bring that value. I'm sure it's fun to, especially from both sides, right? From the distributor, manufacturer, and also the for the municipalities and the legislation as well. But do you see yourself? I guess is there enough work or enough? I guess work or enough to keep you busy in the Southern California district? Or do you see yourself expanding beyond that once you've kind of got a grasp on the Southern California area, or where do you see yourself going with that?
Yeah, absolutely. So what I did is I wanted to create a business in Southern California because, I have 2 young children, 2 boys that are 9 and 6, and I was missing a lot. I was gone on Monday and came back on Thursday. So I felt like, okay, I'm just going to start this backyard business. I'm going to sell to my best accounts and I'll be all right. So what I started doing is when I looked at these manufacturing companies and people started reaching out, Florida or Michigan or Oklahoma, what I realized is that these states have almost identical mandates to California. Matter of fact, state of Oklahoma has implemented the same type of mandate for Senate Bill 555 in Oklahoma since 2014. So they're even ahead of California.
Yeah.
And so the future of water, in my opinion, is stormwater management and leak detection. And so when I started looking at that, there's absolutely an opportunity to expand those lines in other areas. And I began to do that. Florida, Michigan, and Oklahoma specifically. So yeah, I think
I have to imagine, there's probably, I mean, the bigger you go, you can't do it all yourself, right? What does the future from an employee and a team standpoint look like? I gotta imagine you're getting pretty close to needing some help, right?
Oh yeah. So what I wanted to do is just sell.
Right.
Get things going. But yeah, I have plans. I want to bring on some salespeople. I want to bring on some engineers. I want people to be able to focus on specific types of products. With 6 different products that are kind of a little bit different, I'd like for people to be more more product specific. But yeah, definitely want to bring on some people. I think that, that's the reason why I've named it Advanced Conservation Management is because I wanted it to be somewhat vague. And, because a lot of things can fit under the package. If I started Jesse Valve Company and all I could sell is valves, right? So what I'm finding is that there's a lot of opportunities in a lot of different areas, for growth, for sure. And I think what's awesome is that it's something that I could be proud of. And I touched on that earlier, where I didn't have a whole lot of pride, selling fire hydrants for whatever reason. It wasn't sexy when I tell people, hey, and, But I have a product that's a trash capture device. So Los Angeles wants to be zero trash in their stormwater systems by 2032. And we're selling these catch basin inserts that have bacteria killing filters. So when it rains and stormwater piles up into these catch basins, it captures and collects all the trash that would otherwise go directly into the ocean. People
Yeah.
think catch basins are filtered, and they are to a degree, but not nearly what we need them to be. So for
Yeah.
me, I look at one of these trash capture devices after it rains. You see cigarette butts and red cups and, God knows what's in there. But that gives me a little bit of pride to say that we're preventing that stuff from going into the ocean, you
Yeah.
know? So that's what I feel like the future is in this business for any of those guys that are out there that are just kind of, kicking their rocks around saying, man, this job is just ho hum. I feel like millennials are going to get behind that. Conservation is big. There's plenty of opportunity for growth.
Yeah.
Uh,
A lot of people want to be connected to a purpose or a mission right now, right? Rather than just a job that is 9 to 5 and pays them and puts food on the table. They kind of want to be and people want to support those kind of things too, right? So I mean, if you've got two different t-shirt companies and one of them gives back, I feel like a lot of people are willing to pay a little bit more to that for that give back because they want that sense of you know, kind of helping out and that purpose and that mission. So I think you're kind of right in line right now with society and where they're at as far as being able to grow and also honestly retain and attract talent too. I think that you're gonna have a pretty when you start really looking at it, you're gonna have a pretty uh, be pretty successful in bringing those kind of people on for sure.
well, thank you. I hope
Have
so.
you yeah, have you put any pen to paper, any thought to because again, I mean, going back to what your biggest value is that knowledge, right? And that information and that's for you, that's all here, right? So bringing people on, your biggest challenge, my assumption is going to be kind of transferring that to people as they come on. So have you given any thought or any pen to paper on what that process is going to look like for you when you start bringing people on?
Um, I haven't, you know, what's funny is I already have the guys that I feel like will work best in
Right?
mind.
Yeah.
And when I see him, I kind of give him a little elbow, like, hey man, give me a year or so.
Yep.
But I
Yep.
think ultimately, the biggest goal of a business owner is replacing themselves.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
every business owner has that challenge. And I think that I bring a more, uh, a different type of energy, right, than corporate America. And I think we can see that people aren't attracted to the same things anymore. Like you hit on, purpose. So, our tagline is products with purpose, you know, and that's ultimately what I was lacking. I didn't have a purpose. I didn't feel like I was working towards something. And when I would go to the company and say, hey, I'm not asking for a raise for a raise. I'm asking, how do I earn this?
Right.
Okay. Let's put 5 steps together to see how I can get closer to that. And I think just being willing, right? Just being open and willing to listen to your employees, not just listen to them, but really take it in what it is that motivates them. Another saying I have is recognition is just as good as compensation, right?
Yeah.
And people want to be recognized. They want to
Yeah.
feel like their work is valuable and that they
Especially
did a
in
good job.
2021, right? I mean, that's the mentality of the workforce right now.
That's the mentality. And
Yeah.
so not to say I want to cater to that, but I felt like that's what I needed. And so I'm going to be more understanding to that.
Yeah.
And whenever somebody comes to me and says, how much am I worth or what I usually say is, what do you want?
Yeah.
What is it you want? Because if I throw something at you, you may think it's disrespectful. You may think it's something that's just, tell me what you want and then let's work to get it. Because
Yeah.
if I can get you what you want, I feel like that's going to create loyalty.
Yeah.
And,
For sure.
you know, uh, but as far as like, I mean, I have like this thought of the perfect person in my head of an engineer, and I have this thought of the perfect salesperson. But I think ultimately I'm a sales guy. And if I sell, everything else will work itself out.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, it sounds like you got all the places or the pieces kind of set and ready to kind of blow up a little bit. So I think it'd be fun for sure to kind of watch the future. Where do you see yourself in a couple of years, and what does that vision look like for what ACM is in a couple of years?
that's a good question. I definitely see us expanding. I definitely see us, my first goal is to duplicate it in Northern California.
Yeah.
I feel like if I could protect my backyard first, and then, California, there's just so much work and opportunity here anyways, you know, but I've had like fraternity brothers reach out. I've had, guys that I've worked with, guys that still work for former employers reaching out. But I definitely see us expanding, and I
Yeah.
see us bringing on new lines. I want to be the guy that has the cool stuff first,
Well,
right?
it's California's kind of a proof of concept, right? I mean, I feel like if you're able to prove that you can be successful and be uh, kind of create change in that water conservation and leak detection in an area like California that is so, you know, I mean, lately in the last 5 6 years, so drought, right? And that's such a big issue right now in the state. I feel like if you can prove your worth here in California, it almost kind of creates value in other states, right? Like if we can be successful in California, imagine what we could do for you in other states where you're not having as big of an issue that California is,
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, these mandates, they usually start on their coast and
right?
work their way in.
Right?
And, Los Angeles, LADWP and East Bay Mud up in Oakland, those are the two largest water districts, nationally.
Yeah,
And a lot of districts look to them and see what they're doing. And those decisions have a ripple effect. So I try not to get too far ahead of myself. That's kind of what's worked for me. It's just stay focused. But I do have a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan, and it has to do a lot with saving water and being able to quantify that.
yeah,
And then go to the state and say, hey, this is what we've done here. We could duplicate this in other areas. And if I can say, hey, I saved city of San Diego, 1,000 acre feet of water a year, whatever that number is, whatever those
right.
gallons are, that carries a lot of weight, with minimal work, you
Yeah.
know?
Well, I
So
have to imagine it probably takes some quite a bit of self discipline, like you said, to kind of stay small and stay focused when you have something that could be such a solution for the entire state, the entire country, like worldwide. Like it's almost like you have this thing that everybody can use, but you can't sell it to everybody, right? You got to kind of start and stay focused. So I commend you for that, because I wouldn't be able to do that. I know for a fact. Like I'm too big of a, hey, let's blast it, let's get it out there, let's do it all. But yeah, it's tough to kind of have that discipline to stay focused and like you said, kind of make those growth steps incrementally.
I wanted to stay organic.
Yeah,
Um, I learned real quickly from a sales perspective, I can only sell as much as the manufacturer can make. Right.
yeah,
So we've had a little bit of that with Hydrant
yeah.
Guard. We had a client that said, we want to buy 8,000 units. Now, Mike, I can retire off 1,000 units. Now, 8,000 units, that was mind boggling. I had never
Right,
heard that before.
right.
But the reality is, Hydrant Guard isn't ready to make 8,000 units,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah,
So it's one of those things where like, okay, let's have our milestones, and we have our weekly calls, and it's really great, 500 units, 1,000, keep it simple, 1,000 units, 1,500 units, right?
yeah,
So we're to the point though where Hydrant Guard understands where we're at and where we can be. And so they've decided to reinvest and
yeah.
buy new machines and get us to that point. If I took that order, there'd be no way we
To
could
be
fulfill it.
drowning. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, or if I took that order, we would not be able to sell to anybody else.
Right.
So it's just one of those things where we have to come together, and I always rely on the team. That's the best thing for me. We have the ownership, we have the production, and we have sales. And it's, we bounce ideas off each other. Where should we go? What should we do? But it's one of those things. It's a good problem to have.
Yeah.
But it is difficult, very, very difficult to stay focused because I'm like you. I want to throw that wide net too.
Right.
And, I want to get any and every, right now I'm eating what I kill.
Yeah.
So I use a lot of fishing analogies. I want that whale, right?
Yeah.
But it's been good for me too, to kind of continue to stay focused and not get distracted by the bells and whistles that the world throws at you and, the bright lights and, like I had an opportunity for another company and right now I have 6. If I brought on 7 product lines, that's a lot. That might be getting too busy, So
Yeah.
I'm not ready for that yet. So what's cool is our industry is very top heavy. And I say that in the sense where there's several individuals that have been in the industry for 30 plus years, which I think is hats off. And that says a lot about the industry that we're in. But we're having a problem getting younger people in. And I'm talking about waterworks specifically.
Right.
And it's underground waterwork. And we're having a hard time getting some of these younger guys into the industry. And we have a bunch of these 10 to 20-year guys that are all going to move up because everybody else is going to be moving out. And so I have these, what we call pioneering lines. You got to pioneer your way into the market. But if I can hang on long enough, then some of the bigger lines are going to come to me, especially as some of these older guys retire. So who knows what the possibility is. I just know it's
fun.
It's just a lot better than knowing
that
this is all you're going to get.
Right. Yeah.
So
kind of seeing down that tunnel, through that tunnel for sure. You going back to kind of, your value being, your knowledge and being able to kind of convey that and help people out. What's your process like aside from, utilizing your network that you've, obviously, spent years kind of developing and growing? Are there things you're doing to kind of get your name out there or to get your, message out there and what you guys do and how you do it?
My strategy was to take Hydrant Guard, which is the product that I feel like has the most potential.
Yeah.
And I felt like if I can make this one product pop, and Hydrant Guard takes probably about 75% of my time.
Yeah.
And because I sold a competing product and I sold a bunch of units of that competing product, and it was an inferior product by far. I mean, Hydrant Guard stainless steel. It's 2.5 inches tall versus a ductile iron device that's 20 inches tall. So there was a lot of value I saw in that. So my strategy was, if I can get out and make this one brand pop, then I can do it with all the other brands as well. And as this brand grows, then my brand will grow. I can go out there promoting ACM, this, that, and the third. But I didn't think that there was a whole lot of value there because I really haven't done anything yet.
Right.
So if I can get Hydrant Guard to become a somewhat household name within our industry, then it's on to the next thing. Then I can come back with I have instant credibility. So now I can come back with the Fabco products or the Orbis products or whatever.
Yeah. So kind of leading in with that product that is kind of changing the industry, and then, kind of introducing yourself as ACM, like, hey, I'm representing this product, but I am ACM and we've got all these other things, and kind of rounding out things from there. Is that kind of how you're set up now?
Yeah.
Or how you see it working?
Yeah. So Hydrant Guard is a type of product that will get me in the door.
Right.
And especially during COVID, I mean, I was getting kicked out of districts. It was very, very challenging because a lot of what I do is the contact hour, the consulting. I sit in the classroom with 40 guys. I do an 1.5-hour presentation and we have lunch, you know what I mean? And I get this explain to them all the products. So without doing that, it's very difficult to let them know what else I do. So we had to do the whole social media thing and, the Instagram thing. And, cause that wasn't something that I really, relied on prior to this. I did it, just kind of, from a personal perspective, just looking at it, but like, I didn't think I was going to be able to sell HydroGuard on Instagram. And lo and behold, I'm selling units on Instagram. It's crazy.
Right. Yeah.
So, and it was also about like being creative. There's, you see a distribution manager, then you see the engineer, then you see the manager, then you see the installers, right? Like this is the process. Well, 3 of those steps are now eliminated. Now, what are you going to do? Right. Well, I'm going to stock them on Instagram, or I'm going to get them in LinkedIn, or like there was several times where we had to really think outside the box and figure out how we're going to get this product in front of the customer. Which I thought was great because it was kind of like, everybody had the same challenge.
Right. Yeah. And kind of forcing you to use a product or an avenue or a vessel that you've, not been familiar with or not been comfortable with. Right. And kind of forcing you to kind of expand your boundaries a little bit.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Very cool, man. Well, Jesse, it's been awesome. I appreciate the time. I think, what you're doing is great, and I can't wait to watch where you're headed, because I think there's big things in the future for sure for you, and I think it'll be fun to kind of watch as you grow. But before we kind of get off this, let's let everybody know where to find you, where to how to get in touch with you, or and any kind of maybe if you got social media, whatever it is, how they can find you.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Mike. I appreciate it. Appreciate the time. Appreciate you having me. You can find me at, on Instagram, advanced_CM. That's advanced, AVANCED_CM, Cat Mary. At Instagram, you can find me at Jesse Anderson on LinkedIn. Those are the 2 biggest platforms for me that are moving right now.
Cool.
And you could find me info at HydroGuard as well. Go to the HydroGuard website. I have a website, advancedcminc.com. You could sign up for contact hour training. You could look at the products. Everything has links. One thing I'm doing is I'm working on YouTube videos to have each product promoted individually on a YouTube link. So that's something we're working on here in the winter.
Very cool, man. Well, it's been awesome. I appreciate it, Jesse. Have a great day. Stay in touch, and look forward to see where you're headed.
I'll do that, Mike. Thank you so much. I appreciate your
Jesse.
time.
Appreciate you, man.
All right.
Have a good one.
You too.
Hey, thanks for listening. If you had a good time, be sure to hit that subscribe button to get all the latest episodes. And if you had a really good time, leave a review to let us know what you thought. Until then, go gather some crazy stories on your job sites, and we'll see you next time on So, You Want to Be a Contractor.